Hello everyone. Good evening to everyone tuning in on the EduChat series. This is Jay Wong again. Hope you are having a pleasant weekend. So today is the 19th of December, 2020. So we are very much approaching the end of year 2020. So how has everyone been doing? So right now, as always, for those of you who are tuning in right now, please comment down below in terms of which country are you from. And also, we are very excited to let you know, and I guess that you have seen the video just now, we are going to be having the Edu Galaxy tomorrow. So for those of you teachers and parents, if you have any of your kids, students, or any of your children who are aged between 10 to 17 years old, please do tune in on the Edu Galaxy program, learning all about space education. So we'll be having a very interesting session tomorrow. All right. So for today, we are going to be zooming on the topic at hand for today's EduChat series. Now, for the topic for today, it's a very interesting topic for me myself because I used to be a gamer when I was young. And the topic for today, it's all about gaming addiction amongst youth. So the question is that, does it exist, right? So I guess a lot of us during COVID, when our children and students are all at home with all of the time on their hands, right? So with internet access, mobile phone, you can have access to practically any game in the world, right? So we're not talking about PS5, which has just launched, I guess, 1 month or 2 months ago, right? And PC gaming. So it has been a very popular time for students to get access and to have fun playing computer, PC, PS5 games. Now, the question is, how does it affect their daily life and in their academic studies as well? How does it really work? Is it a positive or a negative thing? So we'll find out all about this when we are discussing with our speaker for today. Now, a very quick introduction on our speaker for today. Her name is Madam Chiang Khai Chong. She is actually a clinical psychologist, and she actually works primarily with adolescents and adults on a wide range of conditions, such as depression, anxiety, OCD, and chronic stress. So she has a very long-standing interest in mindfulness and has been practicing it for the last 10 years. Wow, 10 years. So she's a trained teacher in the Mindfulness in School Project UK, and apprentice teacher of the Oxford Mindfulness-Based Cognitive Therapy. So she was formerly a certified public accountant and banker and is married with 2 children who are now young adults as well. So without further ado, I would like to invite Madam Chiang joining us together on the EduChat series. So Madam Chiang, are you ready? We're bringing you up live right now.
Yes.
Hello,
Hi.
Madam Chiang.
Hi, Jay. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, and good evening to everyone. And I understand that the audiences are from different part of the world. So
Right.
perhaps I may also need to say good morning and good afternoon, depending which time zone you are in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And hello to Shearith Thai from Cambodia. Hello.
Cambodia.
Yeah, and for those of you who are tuning in, please do comment down below on which country are you from. So, Madam Chiang, so for today's
Yes.
topic, right, would you be able to give us a very brief on what you will be presenting and what we will be discussing on today in terms of gaming addiction?
Okay. Let's take away the term addiction because it kind of creates panic, yeah? And whether there is an addiction or not, we'll see. So I think the title, gaming among youth, is it a problem? I think it is a very big question. I can tell that I will tell the audience that I don't have the answer. That's why it is a question mark. So what I'm going to share is pretty much what I know about gaming. At my age, I don't know much about real live gaming because I'm not a gamer. And like Jay said, you're a gamer. So probably you can give in comment in between. But what I learned about gaming is a lot from my children. They are young adults now. When they're teenagers, they went through their gaming period. I see client who came in is a little bit biased because client who came in usually have some kind of difficulties. That's why they came to see me. So I'll be talking about generally what kind of games you have in the market, some statistics to see whether really it is that popular. Now by understanding a little bit about the games, this is my own experience, because when I understand the game, I find that it's much easier for me to understand what's really happening to my children and all my clients. So this is what I want to share with the parents. So this is about gaming. What is it? What kind of games is it? Some common names that we kind of want to know, so that when your children mention, you kind of know, oh yeah, that's what they're talking about. Of course, I will go into the problematic play, and what exactly is addiction. When does it become an addiction? And then probably what I found out about prevention, of an excessive play, becoming an addiction. I'll touch a little bit on what I found out about the positive aspects of gaming, and perhaps a little bit about esports. Esports is a big thing now. So I'm quite thrilled, looking at the esports market. Yeah, so these are a couple of things that I'll be talking about.
Right. Awesome. Yeah. And by the way, Madam Chiang, in preparation for today's session, right, I purposely went off and got a game console, and I played the entire morning on gaming. And I was, observing my thoughts when I was playing different games. There's like about 1,500 games on that console. Probably I'll share my experience as well. It has been a very long time.
Play? Which one did you play?
There's like Street Fighter, the old school games, and then there's some esport games as well. There's a very interesting finding. It has been a very, very long time since I touched game. So it's good to, recall childhood memory on gaming. And let's use myself as a human guinea pig. And let's see what we can find out from this session over here as well. All right?
Yeah, that would be great. Yes, that would be very helpful.
Right. And also for those of you who are tuning in right now as well, right? If you're a teacher or a parent, please do comment down below as well. And do comment down below if you think your child or student actually has a gaming, I wouldn't say addiction anymore. Do they have a gaming tendency? Do they have a hobby of gaming, right? Do they have a hobby of gaming? And do you think, does it affect their normal daily life, right? So I was just very interested to hear out from all of you who are tuning in. And let's have a discussion. If you have any question for Madam Chiang throughout the entire session, please do comment down below, and we will have be able to bring out the question and have a conversation between you as well. All right? Okay, so Madam Chiang, so I guess from towards that, I think that you have prepared a very brief presentation with regards to the topic for today. Let me bring out your screen over here. I think you can share your screen.
Sure. Yeah. But perhaps before I share the screen, because I realize when I share the screen, I can't see you. Okay. Probably perhaps a little bit introduction on, because I mentioned like I'm not a gamer, and how do I know about this gaming,
Right.
So I guess this topic about gaming is very controversial. I mean, I'm glad that Jay, you kind of represent the young generation who kind of know gaming. I suppose the parents and teachers here are maybe perhaps my generation, or a little bit, maybe young, I'm rather old, will be on the generation that do not know much about gaming. Yeah. So gaming become very controversial. And I think there are two main issues, the two main controversies. I think one of it is definitely about the violent content. Yeah. I think the main question in a lot of research is that will the violent content translate into aggressive behaviors of the player? Now, this area of research, I have not really looked into it, but a cursory glance of it looks like it is actually quite inconclusive. Some say yes, some say no. It is actually difficult to say. The other thing that I'm going to talk about today is whether gaming will lead to an addiction. Yeah. So don't get panicked, don't get worried. Yes, gaming addiction it is there. WHO has recognized it in 2018 that gaming addiction is a disorder, it's a behavioral addiction. Yeah.
Right.
So this is something we're going to talk about. So even though there is an addiction, it doesn't mean that every young people who play games, will be addicted. Like Jay is, I think you're perfectly okay, right? You're perfectly okay.
Well,
Yeah,
later maybe
right.
I'll share with you my findings after playing like about
Yeah.
a few hours of gaming earlier. It
Yeah,
sort of
yeah.
like
What do you feel
causes
about it?
some changes in my neurochemical in my
Yeah, that's
brain, if I
interesting.
may say
All right.
that.
Yeah. And also I would like to, before I go to the slide and all the statistics and all this stuff, I would also like to share with parents like how do I how do I beginning to learn about gaming, because it's actually very scary. My experience in the beginning was that what I heard is about, in the media where you have young people who play nonstop for 48 hours and then they die and collapse in a cyber cafe, and personally I know of friend's son who skipped school and ended up in cyber cafe all the time. In my line of work, I see a lot of this kind of issues. So I get, I do have, I did have a biased opinion about gaming in the past. Um, but in my line of work, you see, this is what happened is when I was very early in my practice, I see um, teenagers, like where parents drag them into the therapy room, and they're kind of asking me to fix them, like, stop their gaming. And I was not experienced. I know nothing about gaming, so I was trying to look at their behavior, and I look at their behavior. I'm trying to change their behavior. Now, these teenagers who come in, uh, would I couldn't build rapport with them. First thing, I know nothing about gaming. Okay. Second thing, I was seem to be standing on the parent side. So it become like an opponent, like the child, the gamer against parent. So I was on the parent side. I very helpless. I couldn't do anything. They're not cooperative. And I also noticed one thing. It probably didn't hit me that time. Most of the time, those kids who came in with problematic play, maybe the term problematic play is a little bit more appropriate and describe it better. With problematic play, there are other issues in their life, parental conflict, family issues, bully, they're probably victim of bully. They have this kind of issues. I noticed that, So a bit helpless. And until there was one client who came in, he was a university student, brilliant university student. It was a little bit easier because he was older, so we could communicate. And that's when I beginning to understand the gaming world. So I have a switch. I changed my hat. I wasn't looking at the gaming behavior. I tried to understand him, and that is when he told me a lot about the esports and about why he play games. That is when a beginning for me to kind of walk into the gaming world of the young people. This is why I want to share this, because as a parent, as a therapist, I think this is very important. We need to understand the world of these young people who are gaming, instead of pointing the fingers at them. So what I found out from this young man, was that he received a lot of validation and a lot of respect from his community, which he did not get in his real life. So it was like an aha moment to me. So actually from then onwards, that's when I changed the way I see this gaming problem. Yeah. uh, that's why I feel that it is important, that I really want to share with the parents on this side. Now, gaming is here to stay. Okay. This is the reality, so the older generation who know very little about gaming have to start learning about gaming. Yeah. So perhaps I will share the slide now on some statistics that I found out. Yeah. How do I do that? Hang on. Share screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, while we're doing that, also to share to everyone, I've been doing some Aside from playing game, I've also been checking through the online esport community as well. So picture this, right? You know, during World Cup, everyone is like sitting over the mama cheering for their team, right? For, you know, Brazil versus England or whatsoever. The same thing is with the gaming community as well. So imagine two-person playing games online, and then everyone is like cheering for their favorite team. So it sort of like brought out a huge community of students and youth, right? Teenagers cheering for their team,
Yes.
having that sense of community, having that sense of validation, as you've mentioned earlier. So there is something very, very interesting that we are looking at over here. Okay, so we'll go much more in depth on that, but before that, let me bring out Madam Chiang's slide over here. Yeah, so I'm looking at the first slide, gaming among youth. Is it a problem?
Hang on, I can't. All right. You can see my slide, Jay?
Yes,
You
yes.
can, okay.
Mhm.
I'm just going to move to the next one. Yeah. Okay. Now, like what I said, that gaming is here to stay. Yeah? And the popularity of gaming, some statistics, there are 2.7 billion gamers worldwide. I think this is about, what's the population? World population is about 7.8 billion. So it's about one third.
Yeah,
Yeah, about one third of the population actually are gamers. And I was curious, so I checked out what is the population in the world who play basketball. And I found out 2.7 billion gamers were like 6 times of the number of people who play basketball.
right.
Yeah. So, and curiously or interestingly, 1.5 billion of the gamers are in Asia Pacific region. Yeah. China itself is 640 million gamers. Yeah. So let's look at Malaysia. I'm a Malaysian, so this is the first statistics that I looked up for. 32% of our total population is 14 million gamers. And the age group, because we are talking about youth, so we look at the age group. Interestingly, the highest number of gamers, 47%, are actually 21 to 35 years old. You know, not as young as we thought, you know. So, uh, Jay, youth is, what is the maximum age of youth?
I guess they just brought up the benchmark of youth, but I guess it's about 35 years old is considered
Yeah,
youth.
okay, so youth. So if you look at these statistics, is 79%, yeah, are youth. Okay. Yeah, so definitely what we know about youth playing games, yes. Singapore, 58% of Singaporean played online games. And again, youth, 72% of Singaporean aged 16 to 24 years old played online games. So it's again youth. South Korea is even a bigger percentage. 91% of teenagers actually played video games and 85% of youth play video games. China is 640 million gamers. And again, young, 18 to 25 that make up about 50%. So definitely, video game is very popular among youth. So, like what I said, we need to know about gaming. I'm assuming that most of the audience here are parents. I'm also I hope I'm not being presumptuous. I'm assuming that most parents don't know much about game. Yeah, but Jay, I think you must be very familiar with this one. These are the terms that I learned from my client, my children. A very popular game is called MOBA, multiplayer online battle arena, and this is the genre of game that is usually in a tournament. Yeah, so it's like two teams, five each, and each player, you pick your character, you pick your avatar, and you have your skill, you have your weapon, then you form your team and you work together, you strategize, and you fight with your opponents. Maybe you try to take over their base. The popular game for MOBA, I think Dota and League of Legends, these are the two games that are, I would say, most popular, and these are the two games that are in the esports. Yeah. The second type of game, we call it a multiplayer first-person shooter, and CS:GO or Counter Strike is belong to this genre. It's again multiplayer. There's a couple of players online. There are two teams. but the view is a little bit different. I'll show you the picture afterwards. The view is different in a sense that the player um, is seeing from the first person point of view. Like when you read a book, the first person narrating, I do this, I see that. So this is called the first person shooter. And then you have MMORPG, which is massively multiplayer. Online is a role playing game. Role playing game can be multiplayer or it can be single player. And these are some of the popular one, like World of Warcraft is a very popular MMORPG, and there are quite a bit of research on this game because the researcher seems to find that this game is one of those that is most addictive,
Mhm.
and
Wow.
it kind of explain why. Single player RPG, I mentioned God of War because I have not played God of War, but I am very tempted to play God of War. Because RPG game is very story based, and I love stories. I love to read. And God of War is based on Greek mythology, a character called Kratos. And as in a lot of Greek mythology, he is a demigod, he's a son of Zeus, if you are interested in Greek mythology. And his journey with his son and the visual, the graphic was just so beautiful. Yeah. And you have battle royale games where there are like 20 teams and the last team standing. Sandbox video game, the most popular one is Minecraft. And there are quite a lot like Among Us, Animal Crossing, there are online board games, party games. So there are actually all kinds of genre now, especially with the mobile phone. And yeah, so this is mobile, right? And this is League of Legends. Yeah, this is League of Legends. And if you notice what I put down, a few statements at the bottom, these are actually the player's experience. So some players says that, in this game, you get immersed in competitive mode and there is a lot of planning, you pick your characters and I think like League of Legends has, I don't know, Jay, do you play League of Legends? It's about 100 over characters to choose from. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
funny to say, all of the games
Ah.
that you just listed, I played none of them before.
Oh,
But
okay,
yeah,
okay.
zero. I
I
never play any of
remember,
them.
yeah, I read it's like 100 over characters for you to choose from. So it's very exciting. And then one
But but
player
I
say,
but I
yeah,
roughly know how it works. The
yeah,
mechanics of it. I've seen
yeah,
my
the
friends play
game
before.
mechanic.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. And another player say that there's so much satisfaction in beating a higher ranked friend and outplay him, and it's fun to chat, So this is the element. Slowly you get a feel. Why is it that it's so attractive? Yeah, this is the first person shooter. This is one of the CS:GO, and the research actually say the first person shooter is very immersing. You're very in it, and you're very in it because of this concept called flow. A player can get into this flow condition, and the flow condition is described as a condition of absolute presence and happiness. Is when the rest of the world kind of fades away, and in order to get this flow, you need to have this good match between skills and challenge. So it like you are really into it, and in this play, when a player can match the skill with the challenge and the obstacle, it attains that strong sense of control, and that is the appeal of the game. Now, this is God of War. I was so tempted to show you a lot more pictures, yeah, but it's really lovely.
Right.
This is World of Warcraft. There's certain comment here. Now, World of Warcraft, if I was just imagining it like if it's a multiplayer, basically, now in the RPG, there is no two team fighting. It's more of the character go into this world and journey and have the adventure, killing monsters or whatever it is. And along the way, you meet people, you can form alliance, you meet people. So if you're a fan of, let's say, Lord of the Ring, I could kind of imagine uh, you enter the world in the Middle Earth, you go to Rohan, or you kind of fight alongside Aragorn and Legolas and Gimli, and then you travel, and then you meet the hobbits, you go to the Shire. So it is a different world that there's so much of excitement. It's a virtual world, and you take on a character, and that's why it is so immersing. Yeah, this is very cute. This is the sandbox game, Minecraft. Minecraft, it is like a building game, and if you look at it, this one, these are little blocks. It is almost like Lego. It's like an online Lego. You can actually create a lot of stuff, but there is a kind of adventure because the player will go and collect materials and then start building. And as you continue to collect, there will be challenges like these little mobs. They are the bad guys. They will try to stop you. They will try to kill you. So that's a little bit of adventure, and overcoming obstacles is involved, and there's lots and lots of creativity involved. Yeah, so this is one mode, and the other mode is the creative mode. You just build and create. Now this is the actual this is the actual picture of KLCC Twin Towers, and this is actually a 3D graphic built under Minecraft. There are lots and lots of creation by the player of Minecraft. They build they build spaceships, they build all kinds of things. It's very creative. It's very interesting. Yeah, these are some of it. Like Among Us is an imposter game, Animal Crossing where you build village. This is the Battle Royale. I think this is PUBG. PUBG is currently very popular.
Right.
Fighting is a fighting game. Yeah, this is kind of fighting game. Right, and yeah, those are some of the genres, and I think this one probably most parents will be quite familiar. Basically, there are 3 platforms. You have the console games, there's your Xbox, that's your controller, there's your joystick. PlayStation, I think Jay mentioned about PS5 just now.
Right.
Of course, you have the PC games where you play on the PC. It can be online, and now it's very popular. Mobile games is very, very popular now because it is handheld. You can take it anywhere with you. Yeah, so this is just general introduction of what I know about video games. Yeah. Any comments, or Jay, would you like to comment on this, or you want to add something?
I guess aside from the 3 game platforms that we have right now, so there's Xbox, PlayStation, PC game, and mobile games. And I guess currently right now there's even the virtual reality game as well, where you wear the Oculus.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, and there's the augmented reality as well. It's not too popular yet, but it's starting to pick up steam from there as well.
Yeah. I guess that would be so exciting. Imagine you're just completely immersed in the world. Yeah.
But I guess but I guess let's discuss on towards probably 30 years ago when there was not much of video gaming. It started off with purely just a few friends coming together on a playground, playing guli, playing football and basketball from there. And 10 years come when the introduction of computers were to be introduced, right? Then you start to have sort of like a very simple base game like Tetris, snake games, simple concept games. And as of now, it has evolved to become very graphic intensive game where the reality of things gets to be described in such minute detail. Like when you share some of the game like God of War, you get to really get immersed into it. It's almost like watching a movie, right? Going in depth from there.
It is, and it is so much more than a movie, because when you're a movie, you're actually watching outside, whereas when you play like the RPG, you are part of the story.
Right.
So you can imagine how attractive is it. Like I say, I'm a fan of Lord of the Ring, and I just imagine if I really go into that Middle Earth and I can talk to the elves, and I can fight alongside the heroes and
Right.
fighting the orcs. It's really, really exciting. Yeah.
Right.
So that's the appeal. Yeah.
Yeah, and Madam Chang, you were speaking about the state of flow, right? If
Yeah.
if we were to compare it with watching a movie, right? Obviously, watching a movie, you are just watching passively, but you are very immersed in that movie, the story, the character,
Mm,
and you
mm.
sort of like time just sort of like lose track. And but when you're playing game, you get to control and manipulate the character
Yes.
in form of that.
Yes.
Any difference in within the state of mind when you are watching a very good
Very,
immersive movie?
very different. It's very
Mhm.
different because now flow is is being also applied in sports. In sports, when a person play a game and they are in that full control situation, a fully controlled condition that they could control the game. That is flow. Musicians, when they are completely immersed and they do not even have to think about how to play it well. They are completely into it. That's the flow. Yeah. So, but watching a movie will not be a flow because you are still a passive observer.
Right.
Yeah, because you don't control anything when you're watching a movie. Whereas flow, like you rightly pointed out, you are in control.
Right.
The things you flow with it. That's why the term is flow. And the description just now that when your skill matches the challenge, that is the flow. So same thing in any other sports. When your skill meet the challenge, like say tennis, like every ball that came, you know how to hit it back. You hear the sound of the tennis ball hitting on the racket net, and you can see it flying over. You know exactly what to do. That's the flow, and that is when the researcher found that in gaming you get the flow, especially in first-person shooter.
All right. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess that perfectly explains the difference on that. Yeah.
yeah. Is there any question, or should I continue?
So far, there's none. So for those of you who are watching right now, if you have any questions to Madam Chiang with regards to gaming addiction and gaming amongst youth, children, or students, please do comment down below so that we can have a discussion from here. Yeah.
Okay. Right. So I guess I can summarize. These are some of the points of why games are so appealing. From a few sharing the statement that from the gamers themselves. We call it leveling up. Yeah, leveling up is basically about progress, about mastery, about achievement. So in gaming, you after you kind of overcome one obstacle, and then you go up into another rank, and then you go up into another rank. In most game, and even simple game, like I sometimes play charade, or I play what is that, Scrabble. I play Scrabble game in my mobile phone. After you kind of finish one level, they take you to another level where they make it a little bit more difficult. So
Right.
that's
Right.
there's this sense of achievement. There is a mastery, um, and there is also something called intermittent reinforcement. So you you target something, like you need to take over the base, or you need to kill that monsters, right? So you need to work really, really hard, and it doesn't mean that every time you do it, you kind of get successful. Sometimes you're successful, sometimes you're not, and you need to keep trying, and you need to keep trying, and that you will get it, you will be successful. Yeah. So it become even more exciting. Like in gambling, similar concept in gambling. In gambling is that you sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but the thought is that I'm going to get it. Like jackpot. Jackpot tells you
Right.
that your jackpot price is 1 million. So you just need to keep pulling that lever, and you just keep pulling and pulling. And then sometimes you get like 10 ringgit, sometimes you get 100 ringgit, sometimes you get nothing. So you just keep going. So that
Right.
is the appeal of gaming. So there's mastery, there's a sense of achievement, and there is this intermittent reinforcement. Earning
Right.
respect, yeah, it's another thing. Earning respect, right. And the second one about socializing, I was just talking to another therapist, and she was telling me that she spoke to some of her clients, and she said when her client talk about the gaming community, right? Their online community, they don't meet face to face. The gaming community actually they are very, very strong in their connection. They feel very, very belong, the fellowship and the comradeship, So in socializing, there are about three different levels, some of them, they just enjoy the chat, They could be playing, but they are still chatting. As they continue to chat, they may deepen their friendship, and there may be some self-disclosure. They talk about a bit about the personal stuff, that's where the bonding is formed. And at the same time, like if you play a team game, like Dota or League of Legends, or even Battle Royale, those team game, you actually need to have teamwork, so it's that kind of comradeship, come, let's do it together, let's get the other party, let's get our opponent down. So this kind of comradeship actually form a very, very strong bonding among the players. And I think I'll leave the downside later on. Yeah, so this
Right.
is socializing is something that again, one make games very, very appealing. Like Jay was saying that, in the old days, you probably kind of get together, play goodie and all this. Yeah, so imagine if you're in the same team, usually you kind of bonded, you
Yeah.
get bonded when you're in the same team. Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's very similar, it's just that the form of game is a bit different. It is totally different actually. Yeah.
Right, right. Like
The
what
third,
you're
yeah.
sharing over here, on the
Mm,
five of these points over here, it seems
mm,
like it's like in real life as well. When we are going to work, our career path, leveling up, skill rank, earning
yes,
respect, socializing,
yes,
it's the same trigger that allows us to get that sense of
yes.
happiness,
Exactly.
if I say it correctly.
Yes, definitely. Yes. Well said. Well said. Yeah. And the third item is escaping from real life problems. Yeah. Now, gaming is a world. It's a different world by itself. Yeah. The world that is within within the player's control. Yeah. The real life problems is a lot of times is not within our control. So sometimes, a lot of times, the gamers will get the escape when they're playing games inside the virtual world. So this
Right.
is something very attractive. Yeah. And this is also one of the problem that we will need to talk about. Yeah. Role playing. Role playing is you acquire a new persona, like the God
Mhm.
of War, you Kratos,
Right.
I'm
Mhm.
sure all of us have fantasy. And when Jay, you talk about watching movie. Now, when you watch movies, sometimes you really wish that you're one of the characters. You're so immersed. You really idolize that particular character. But in movie, that's all you could do. You can sit there and you watch, and then you talk to your friends and say how great this guy is. But in gaming, you can actually play the game. You can actually play the role. So that is very attractive. Now, a sense of purpose. That is the fifth one. A sense of purpose is for a gamer, especially with all this leveling and socializing factor involved. You look forward to it. You wake up in the morning, you know that after I finish school, I come back, i'm going I'm going into the gaming world, and I'm going to play the next level. I'm going to meet my friends, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. How I'm going to play, I'm going to strategize, I'm going to choose these characters. So there is like a sense of purpose every day. So when Jay, you mentioned about work, yeah, I think this is also something very similar. If you wake up in the morning, that you have a project that is very exciting for you, you look forward to it. You want to go to the office, you want to work with your team. There is a sense of purpose. So these are the few factors that make gaming very attractive to youth. So up to this point, is there any comments or any questions from the audience?
Yeah, there's a couple of questions over here. However, if I may add over here, right, it seems to be going in line with the Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. So there's the basic. So what we're looking
Yeah.
over here is a sense of,
Sense of
achievement.
achievement, sense of
And then,
belonging.
yeah.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So let me bring out one of the questions over here by Aziz. Thank you, Aziz, for tuning in again. So his question from Aziz: Hi, esports will be featured in the 2022 Asian Games. So this would result in the major influx amongst youngsters and adults into gamification in order to achieve their targets and maybe as their profession as well. So would that be a good choice for the nation? Any comments on that, Ms. Chang?
I can't comment for the nation. Yeah, but it is happening. Whether it is good or it is not good, our Ministry of Youth and Sports (KBS) during Syed Sadiq's term, he has actually formed a team. He has come up with a 5-year strategy on how to promote esports.
Right.
Yeah, whether it is good or not is very difficult to. Perhaps would it be okay for Aziz if we talk a bit about it later on, because I have a small segment on esports, then probably we can have a better discussion at that
Right.
at
Okay.
that segment.
I guess it's later on the slide as well. So
Yeah,
let's talk about that
It is
shortly in a while.
controversial, but it will be. Thank you for bringing up this question. It's something definitely very interesting to talk about. Yeah, it's really food for thoughts. Yeah.
Okay. And I guess one more question over here. So this more on game-based learning. So this asking over here, is there any websites which will be useful for conducting game-based learning in classroom?
No, I'm not familiar with that. I'm not in education. I'm a clinical psychologist, quite pathology. So my exposure a lot is about addiction. Yeah.
Right. Right.
As far as education is concerned, I'm not quite familiar with the education part. Yeah, but I'm very sure there are, because I know that there are online board games. Board games are also, can be also educational. So I'm sure there are, definitely. Yeah.
I guess if we were to take a segue on this question over here, right, when we talk about game-based learning, we could directly ask ourselves, why do we want game-based learning? So a lot of times when we really ask ourselves, it's more of like, hey, can we actually use game as a tool to encourage students to learn better, right? Probably to have that flow state of mind that they are able to immerse themselves in the learning, right? So I'm not sure.
It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Madam Chang, will you be able to share with us on the effects of incorporating games into learning? Are we able to capture that sense of what you just described over there in terms of why we play games and the sense of satisfaction? Can we incorporate that same element and a factor that allows that to happen into a learning environment in the classroom or school?
I would say so. Definitely we can. You see, if you look at, like, I've shown, like, Minecraft. Yeah, Minecraft, it is very, very creative. Gaming is very interactive, uh, challenging. If you give obstacles, I'm sure you can build it in to help them to learn. Yeah. And I think this is timely that you bring this up, because I have this slide here, which I gathered from a few articles about what are the benefits of playing video games. And probably from these few points, you can derive, how gaming can be, this approach, can be applied for learning. Yeah. So what I have read is that some research have shown that playing video games actually improved the cognitive function. And these are the few skills that they highlighted. Improve visual spatial skill. Visual spatial is, how do I put that? Like if I look at something, I kind of know the space. Yeah. So like in your first person shooter, when you are aiming your gun at the target, you need to have that judgment, like when you're driving, you need to have good visual spatial skill to drive. So if I lift up this pen and I want to point here, I need to have visual spatial skill to know that I'm pointing here so that I don't kind of poke through it. So this is one of the research to say that it improved visual spatial skill, problem solving skill, management skill, negotiation skill. I can imagine problem solving skill. You need to form a team. You need to strategize on how to take over the other your opponent, how to take them down. Management skill. You need to manage your team. So usually in a team usually will have a leader. So when you have a leader, you learn to manage your people. There's a lot of negotiation because it seems that in gaming you also need to learn how to negotiate, and you have a lot of trading. Strategic thinking. Strategic thinking will be on the strategic game like Dota, LOL. These are strategy game. How do you form your team? How you're going to attack the other your opponent team, and enhance creativity. In gaming, there is no specific like fixed rule how you're going to do it. There are like thousands of possibilities. So by going through options, you need to be creative. You need to have this parallel thinking. So these are the few that the researchers listed out. In fact, they even talk about emotion, to build resistance in the face of failure, because if you have this target that you want to achieve, but not necessarily you're going to get it. And my personal experience, yeah, I have played one game. It's a PS4 game called The Journey. It is it is nothing that there's no fighting. It's basically this character going through certain obstacles. Yeah. And for me, being a very late comer to gaming, I'm not used to the joystick and all this thing. Actually, it was actually quite difficult for me to overcome a lot of the obstacles. But I was so motivated, the game that my son can finish it in 45 minutes. I think I took about 2.5 hours. Yeah, but it was so fulfilling. So
Yeah.
there's that kind of persistence, that I had to do to go through.
Was it worth it, that 2.5
Oh yeah,
hours?
yeah. And
Best two
it
and a
was,
half hours ever.
yeah, it was, of course, I get a bit of shoulder pain and my thumb was a little bit painful. Yeah, but I really enjoy it. Um, and the other one is it seems that because it generates positive emotion when you're playing games, either through your friendship, through your comradeship, or you feel good, about winning. I know that there are some of the gamers, the young gamers, they actually use game as to distress. A lot of kids in South Korea, their distressing method is actually playing games. I'm not saying that this is completely healthy, but it does generate positive emotion. Social relationship, definitely. Develop pro-social skill. Pro-social skill is about learning to help each other. Yeah. So when you're in a team, you need to help each other if you want to win. And now this is something very interesting. Enhance trusting relationship with parents. This comment was given by one gamer who was interviewed by a researcher. And he said that because how do I put it? He played the kind of games that his parents allowed him to play. So because of that, his parent actually trust him completely. They wouldn't try to like stop him. They wouldn't question him because they knew that they knew what he was doing, and they knew what he was doing. Yeah. So I think this is something that is very important. And I can also relate this with my own experience with my children when they were teenagers. During that time, I know that a lot of parents prohibit their children to go to cyber cafe. But for me, I actually send my children to cyber cafe if they want to. They will tell me, I'm meeting my friend at the cyber cafe. Come, okay, come. I drop you there, and then my mom will come and pick me up at like 3 hours time. And if my children have friends who come over and they say, come, let's go to cyber cafe. I say, come, okay, I drop you up there. So this kind of trusting relationship make it easier for them. Making the children don't feel that they're judged. So it made them open up to me. So I know that if they have any problem, they will tell me. I don't have to be worried. And they know that if they get into trouble, they can tell me, I may be angry, it's fine, but they can tell me because they know that I won't stop loving them. I won't punish them, for if they get into trouble. So I thought this is really, really interesting. Yeah, about not just interesting, it's important, having a trusting relationship between parent and child.
Right.
The
Right.
fourth one is about self-improvement. A few players actually talk about by playing games, they acquire language skill, English. A lot of them learn English. They improve their general knowledge, and the language skills sometimes come from meeting players in from another part of the world. Yeah. So these are the few points that has been highlighted by researchers.
Right.
But I would like to also caution, right? Um, these benefits, the research actually cannot tell whether these benefits can be generalized into real life situation. Like, for example, persistence in the face of failure. Would this quality of being persistent be able to apply in a real life situation? Because a real life
Right.
situation, the challenge could be rather different. Yeah. Um, but what I would like to say is these are potentials. So, to your question, how do we create games for education? I guess these are the points, especially the cognitive part, pro-social. These are areas, that may have some more deserve some research, on how it can be incorporated.
Mm-hmm.
And for emotion, I do know that there are games that talk about mental health,
Mm-hmm.
talk about emotions, um, just like I'm not sure whether you all remember the cartoon Inside Out. I think
Yeah.
there's
Inside
a
Out
cartoon
by
Inside Out.
Disney.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The
So
five emotions that
yeah, the
are.
five emotions. That's right.
Mhm.
Now, if they can make a cartoon about learning about emotions, right? Uh, with that scientific background, so that five emotions, that cartoon was made with actually research and feedback from the psychologist. I'm sure, in gaming, you can do that and even more interesting for children to learn about emotion. So definitely, I would say, even though I don't know how or I don't know where to find them, I'm pretty sure, gaming can be applied in education.
Right, right. And I guess to highlight on the building of persistence in the face of failure, right? So earlier I was doing some of the games. So initially
Mm.
when you are starting out with a game, so you might not be as efficient in winning the game. So
Yeah.
so you keep losing, and then you
Yeah.
get angry. The
Yes.
natural
Yes.
emotion is that you get angry, and then the unsatisfyingness. So you try to play it again, right? And then when you play again, so you get new experience, and then but you still lose, right? But then there's a sense of understanding
Yeah.
ourselves that okay, when I'm facing with failure, how do I naturally react when I'm facing that form of failure? So do I
Mm.
slam the keyboard? Do I get angry? And then but the question is that do I keep on trying until I achieve a certain outcome of it? And that's something very interesting as a parent or as a teacher. You are able to really look into the tolerance level of a student or the kid or the children, for example, and to really
Mm.
guide them from there to understand that, oh, okay, my child actually behaves in this certain way when they are faced with failure. And that could be a very important key in guiding them in other aspects of life as well. Mhm.
Yeah, I think that is a great thing that you brought up, Jay, because it just reminded me something about the research when I was reading research on this. Uh yes, there are all these positive things, but I also read that in the researchers highlighted those gamers whom they interviewed and who has talked about all these positive aspects. The researcher noticed that they they actually didn't know about all these positive aspects until they are being probed. The researcher kind of probed them. So do you think that you learn something? Something like that. So the conclusion from the researcher is, in order to reap the benefits of playing video games, they need to have reflective thinking. So I think what you mentioned just now, Jay, that is a kind of a reflective, you need to reflect on it. And you rightly pointed out that this is the role probably, for parents and teachers to come up with this questioning. So, I'm just thinking of a situation, let's say gaming is incorporated in classrooms. So the teachers will probably play with the kids, and after that you get kind of a debriefing kind of a session, where
Right.
everybody talk and share about it. And that is where they concretize the learning. As parents, now, of course, good trusting relationship is very important. I was talking to, again, a therapist just now, because she was saying that yes, the community is very strong, but the kids also need to understand that is not that community is the gaming community. But when you leave that community and you come back to your family, it's a different community, right? So you need to know how to behave. So in the gaming community, language is usually not so palatable. Yeah,
Right.
a
Right.
lot of harsh words and
Yeah.
foul
Yeah.
words will come out. Yeah. The kids probably, they're a bit macho when they have the gun in front of them. They want
Right.
to fit in. So they speak macho. And foul language. So if they come out of that community and they speak like that to the parents, right? The parents need to help them to reflect. That it's actually two different community.
Right.
That is
Right.
virtual world. There's nothing wrong, to be in that community and speak like that. But when you come back to your family, the family don't speak like that.
Right.
So
Right.
it's okay to be like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and of course, when harsh words comes out, it is because that the emotion of excitement at the time triggers the brain to say that kind of words, right? So it could be that if you are a parent and you are the parent playing the same game, you might be speaking on the same harsh language as well, because you are at that emotional state, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Right. And
Yeah. I think
probably,
so. Like,
to get the parents, father and mother, even the akong ama, grandfather, grandmother, to play the same game and see how they react towards it. So that's a fair game play, right?
yeah. Yeah. So I think what I'm trying to bring up is that there's we as parents, I think we need to be very aware, and not to be overly worried and react, and you may seem to be judgmental, in the eye of the child. Yeah. That will affect the relationship, and then when you affect the relationship, it affect the trust, and it become difficult. Yeah,
Right,
it become
right.
difficult, and you get more worried, when you don't know what your children are doing.
Yeah, and maybe if I can share one of the story that I read about it some time ago. It was this person writing a condolences letter to a family member. So I think the father actually got passed away. And what happens was that he was reconciling on the days and the times that he actually had with his dad. And, because they play a lot of video games together, so there were a lot of very cherishable moments that they actually have together
Right.
when the dad was still alive. And they had a lot of fun together, playing video games, chatting about how to win games and things like that. And it sort of like became a bonding mechanics or a bonding element into their life that really
Yes.
brings out very valuable memories together as well. So yeah,
Yes.
relationship with
Yes.
parents.
Relationship. Yes. Yeah. It can be. Like, it's just like father son go fishing. It is a activity that you both do together. Yeah, gaming can be, a kind of activity that bond a parent and a child.
Right. So,
Yeah.
question: is it advisable as a teacher, find out what games your students are playing, and play the game with them? Try the game out together with them. Experience the game together with them, to
Uh,
have a
uh,
better sense of bonding.
are you allowed to do that as teachers?
Pro-
I think it's a good idea, but I'm also thinking about, like, when do you play? You can't do that in class, right?
Oh, I see. Because right now it's COVID, so everyone is at home. So
Oh,
when we talk about,
okay.
the
Okay.
imposter game or the Among Us game, right? It's a very
Yes,
popular game that,
yes,
classmates and even teachers can join in as well. And even
yes,
in the
yes.
US, some of the politicians join in and play with the normal civilians as well. So it's sort of like a very effective tool to enrich the bonding and relationship between
Yeah, yeah.
two different generations.
I think that's very creative. Yeah. Uh, where you can build relationship with the children, with the students, and the student can view you differently. You know, you're not high and almighty up there. You know,
Right,
that
right,
you
right,
can be fun. Just like when I was a student, that was like ages ago, lah. You know, the teachers, the young, especially young teacher, you know, who just graduated, uh, we really like them because we talk the same language. We talk about movies. You know, I remember one teacher. He he started a debate for the class to debate on who was a better actor, you know. So there are two, like, you know, those heartthrob actor during that time. And he he actually create a debate for us. And of course, in the process, we learn debating skill. Yeah, but the topic was so interesting that everybody was like, I want to join, I want to join. So I think in a similar vein, probably now is gaming. Yeah. So you mentioned like Among Us. I think this is a pretty safe game. But I would like to caution, like, if because the part about violent game, the research is quite inconclusive, you know. So I'm also not quite sure whether it's advisable if the teacher go into game that is a little bit more violent.
right, right,
Because there are games, I think have to just be careful. I also read that there are games that has a bit of a sexual theme.
right, right.
So this violent theme and sexual theme, you know, uh, as a teacher, I think perhaps you just need to be a little bit careful about that, lah. You know. But the idea of playing games together with students, I think that's great. You know, from my own experience as a student
Right,
ages ago, I think that's wonderful. Yeah.
right. Okay. Yeah, I guess there's a couple of questions over here. Is it okay if we take some of the questions over here? Okay, so there's a question from Amol Ubale. So his question over here is that is gamification, is the game, okay, let me word it. Is
Mhm.
gamification effect on the affective domain of human? How will you develop effective motor skills by using video games? So Dr.
I'm
Amol
sorry.
Ubale from India.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, is gamification maybe in a way how does gamification affect the domain of the human? So how can you develop effective motor skills by using video games? And any comments on that? Yeah,
Mm,
yeah. Actually,
motor skills. I think this is quite technical. It involves the neuro, you know, the neuro part. You know, the neuroscientists will probably be able to tell.
right,
Motor skill, visual spatial skill, I can imagine. Yeah. Motor skill, I'm not too sure because motor skill you have fine motor, gross motor. So like
right,
for children, what I know about children developmental stage, you know, children playing Legos, the Lego block, you develop your motor skill because like if you want to button, you need your fine motor skill, and
right,
then you have your gross motor skill when you cycle, when you throw balls and you receive balls. Now
right,
these motor skills, I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it is not part of video games because video games is very, you know, it's very fine. It is just like either your console, your joystick. Your joystick, there'll be a visual spatial, yeah. Your keyboard, you know, the mobile phone is basically keyboard. So it is unlikely that it will develop motor skills.
I see. Right. Yeah, and I guess if I were to relate it to something that I can imagine, this just came out of the mind. So
Mm.
we were doing some game-based learning development a few months ago, right? And I was dwelling into how people run simulation in actual real life situation. So let's say, for example, in the pilot industry, right, or in the airline industry, for part of their training routine, right, they would actually have to be put in a computer-based simulation for the pilot to test run, right, and to they have to so-called qualify, or they have to pass that simulation in order for them to get to the next stage, which is that actual airplane by itself. If we talk about motor skills, I guess that by itself, it's sort of like a simulation for them, that they are able to really incorporate a real life situation using game as a mechanics to enhance their ability to be more familiarizing with it. Would you be able to?
But it
Can
depends
we
what
say?
you think. I'm not sure how much a pilot need to develop the motor skill, because when you are a pilot, you are already an adult. You already have adequate motor skill.
I see.
Yeah, but when we are talking about motor skill, usually we are talking about a child, a baby, start to learn how to use
I
the
see.
legs, balancing, So
I
that
see.
is
I
the
see.
development part. Yeah, the tactile, everything is so important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
And as well, during Education Summit 2, we actually had a speaker from Pakistan. So I forgot what's the company's name, but you can check out on Education Summit 2. So they actually came in and share on their company's product, which is a game-based learning. So what they do is that they create games specially for special needs students. So for example, those who have cerebral palsy that would require rehabilitation. So they actually incorporate augmented reality. So imagine there's a screen in front of you, there's a webcam in front of you. So there are probably objects dropping from the sky, right? They show some demo video. And then the kid would actually have to use their hand to reach out over to the screen and to be able to so-called touch that thing. And
Okay.
based on their research, they sort of told us that the motor skills, the reaction level actually increased based on that game by itself. But
Okay.
so that's something interesting as well.
Yeah. For special needs, I can imagine. But if I'm thinking of a typical developed child, I mean, I'm just wondering whether it is justifiable to spend so much time and effort where you can easily just give them some Lego blocks, some, to play, where they can develop very naturally.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Mm.
Okay.
But like I said,
And
this definitely, anything is possible.
yeah, so Amol Ubali, if you're talking about motor skills, perhaps you can check out on the Education Summit 2. There's one of the speaker that talks about using games to enhance the motor skills as well, right? Okay, so another question over here, also from Aziz Rajab. So he's commenting over here that some video games are educational and some are not. But unfortunately, the non-educational video games are more attractive, it's more challenging, and it's more on battlefield or race or fighting to gain victories. So there's elements of terror, values, and brutality. So how do you balance this to youngsters? Any comments on that?
Right.
And by the way, Madam Chung, if you click on the Google Chrome, you should be able to see the comments at the screen as well.
Actually, I'm seeing the comment now from Aziz.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I can see it. Right. Yeah. When I list down those benefits from the research paper, they were not talking about educational games. those gamers who gave their playing experience, and they were expressing, what they have learned. They were playing these combat games, with terror and brutality. Yeah. So if you, I mean, like, not, I have not played any of these games, but I can imagine, like, I attempted to understand Dota, okay, from my son. Understanding itself was so difficult. But as my son was explaining to me how to play Dota, I realized that there is so much of strategic thinking. There's so much of multitasking that you need to do. So that itself, you can call it educational. You learn, you already learn, like I'm talking about management skill, talking about teamwork, you learn from there. So it is not that you specifically write a program or a game to teach teamwork. It is incorporated. But of
Right.
course, but I don't deny that the the brutality and the whatever you call it, the horror, the violent part, it is something we probably need to be wary of. And that, like I said, there is the part that where the research is really inconclusive. A lot of research actually say that it just doesn't happen in real life. So how to balance this to the youngsters? I think the most important thing is the gamers, they need to know that that is a game. Okay, they need to be able to separate their gaming world and their real world. So it apply for everything, like violent content. This is my own opinion. If you know that playing games is okay to shoot because it's not real, right? You know that when you come out, you don't shoot people, you don't kill people because this is real. And I remember I watched, I forgot what's the name of the series. It's one of those superhero series. And this young mutant, they were already going out to fight with another group of mutant. And one of his, a more senior, a more senior mutant asked him, "Are you ready?" And then he said, "Yes, I'm all ready." And this Taikache, this like bigger sister told him, "Do you know that is real this time? It's not your game. When you go out and kill the opponent, it's real." See, so this is the important message that for gamers, they need to know what is real, what is game. I guess that is probably a very key element in balancing.
Right.
Yeah, of course, I think if you keep track of certain games in the media, there are games that has been banned because it was too violent or it has sexual content. So I think it's really important that parents kind of keep themselves
Yeah.
informed of what's going on. Yeah,
Yeah.
things like Reddit, Twitch. These are some of those kind of news portal, gaming news
Right.
portal.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. I guess if we were to relate it on another context as well, right? It's probably just like books, right? So books by itself is just books, but
yeah,
there are good books and there are some unhealthy books as well. So it may lead towards violence, and it may lead towards sexual and inappropriate discussions as well. So it's all going on to the choice of the user that is utilizing the book or the game by itself, and there's like thousands of different of games. So and some games are good, some are educational, right, and some may be harmful. So
yeah.
yeah, I guess as a parent or as a teacher, it's I keep wanting to say that parents and teachers should start to play games and understand what games your child and your students are playing to get a sense of idea on what they are really involved in. Yeah, if you're educated in the games by itself, you could actually choose the game for them, and in a way allow a better understanding in between.
Even if you're not
Yeah,
playing, be interested, you know,
yeah,
interested so that you can have a conversation with your child.
right,
Yeah.
right. Mhm.
Mm.
Okay, yeah, and I guess from there, shall we move on from there as well? I guess if you have any questions, more questions on towards for Madam Chiang, please do comment down below as well. We can further on the discussion with regards to gaming and the questions on there as well. Madam Chiang, are you still sharing your
Oh,
screen over here?
I'm losing I lost my screen. What happened?
Okay, maybe I need to just share the screen again.
Is it there?
Uh, not at the moment.
Hang on. Application. Oh yeah, okay, I found it. Okay. Okay.
Okay,
You
got it.
see the screen now? Right. So just now we're talking about the benefits. But like I said, the researcher cannot conclude whether it can be generalized to real life. I think that's a very important point. Yeah. Okay, now let's talk about the scary stuff. Yeah. Gaming disorder, right? In 2018, World Health Organization has recognized gaming disorder as an illness, as an addictive behavior. Now, but the definition is when someone with an inability to stop playing, even though it interferes with other areas of one's life, such as family, relationships, schoolwork, sleep, and these problems would typically continue for at least 12 months. So they are conditioned. So what it's saying is that just like any youth who play a lot of games, it doesn't automatically is not automatically an illness. It's not automatically a disorder or an addiction. So maybe to make it a little bit easier to understand, gamers who become hooked, that they play every day for extended periods of time, difficulty with self-control, restless, irritable, aggressive. That's quite common. I have heard of cases where one of my teacher in Australia actually told us that the youth play games with a knife next to the table. So if the parent tried to stop him, he would take up the knife to threaten the parents. I think that's really it's addiction, no doubt about it. Or there is strong emotion, sadness, anxiety, if they don't get to play, like a withdrawal symptom. I think we all know about drug addiction withdrawal symptom. So it's something like that. Sacrifice other social activities to play games. So it's only games, they don't go out with friends, they don't go to parties, they don't want to go anywhere. That is a problem. Isolation, reject the real world. So this is about escapism. So they are always in the virtual world. Neglected schoolwork, poor academic performance. So that is when you talk about functioning, the functioning is affected. Deceiving family members about time spent on gaming. Yeah. They have to cheat, they have to lie. Sleep deprivation. So this is a physical, poor health, obesity, dehydration. Now, when these are the symptoms of gaming disorder, and you can see that these are actually very, very serious. So gaming disorder is serious. It is not just an excessive play. It's not just that, sometimes, the kids just binge, after exam. It's not that. It is consistent. I think this is a very good definition that I put it out from a website. There is a difference between someone who enthusiastically participates in a hobby in their free time and someone who compulsively engages in the behavior. So gaming addiction is compulsive behavior. So they have to do it. If they don't do it, they are very anxious, they are very uncomfortable, they are angry, the emotion is just completely out. So enthusiastically participate in a hobby in their free time. It's like I mentioned, sometimes, the exam is over and they have like the kids just have a group of friends and they just binge, they just binge like 6 hours of games, but it happened once in a while. It's just like for me, I binge on Lord of the Ring, the three parts of Lord of the Rings, how many hours is like 2, 3, 6 to 8 hours. I binge, but I hardly do that, probably like once every 3 years. The last time I did it was probably about 5, 6 years ago. Yeah. So there is a difference between just a hobby or it is an addiction.
Right. And I guess when you were mentioning about earlier, a kid were to threaten the parents, right? If you take away my game, then I will kill you. I can slightly relate to what he's feeling. Possibly that there's a lot of emotional attachment, and as well there's a lot at stake in the game. So for example, earlier I was playing the game. When you go up to a few levels, right, and suddenly the power trips, right, and then the entire score goes to zero. And what I what I observe is that because we have put in effort, time, and then energy onto the stake at hand, right? That you get to that level, quite hardly, right? And then suddenly everything just wipes off. It really feels like you have lost something. And
Yeah.
although it's a game, but emotionally you still feel like you have lost something valuable in the
Yeah.
brain by itself. So
Yeah.
is there any explanation on towards this, that how we can how should we really mitigate this on towards children that are very emotionally invested on a game, that they might not be able to pull away from the game into the real world, as per se, when things, more important things such as studies, you actually should be studying, but it's because that you are so emotionally invested in the game that it's very hard for someone with a self-control to pull out from that reality and the connection with the game by itself.
Now, I think the situation that I mentioned when the child has a knife, yeah, and your experience of a power trip, yeah, your experience of power trip, I think that a lot of people, not gamer, you may be able to understand is like, let's say you're doing a piece of computer work,
Yeah.
you're writing a thesis, and then you've written 15 pages, and then you didn't save, and then the power trip, yeah, you feel like you're going to kill yourself, but it's just an exaggerating. I'm going to kill myself for it, but we won't, right? We won't hurt anybody. We will just probably scream, shout. But to take up a knife to threaten the parent, that is actually a lot more pathological. And to come to that stage is uh it is a bit late. So we have to from prevent the gamers from going into this stage. Because when you go into this stage, it is an addiction. It's just like drug addiction, alcohol addiction. It becomes difficult to pull yourself out.
Mhm.
So before I answer your question, um, let me share this. Okay, this is a gaming addiction story. Uh, Cam Adair is a Canadian. You can actually check him out, his story in this website, and that's what he said. In an interview, he spent 16 hours a day. So I want to get the feel of what addiction is. He spent 16 hours a day before the screen since he was 11 years old. He dropped out of school, so he never graduated. And he even pretended to have a job to deceive his parents. So his story was that his father actually sent him to work. And the moment his father dropped him, he actually, after the father left, he left the workplace, and he actually went back, I think, to his room and started gaming, and he pretended that uh, when the parents came back, and he pretended that he actually finished work and he was having a nap, so he was lying to his parents, and actually he was depressed and suicidal at 18 years old. Yeah, so that was the turning point. When he was suicidal, he believed that he realized that he needed to do something, and his statement was that gaming was a place where I fulfill my emotional needs. I was able to escape. I was able to socially connect. I was able to feel a sense of purpose. Now, this is his life. This is so important that if this is taken away from him, he would rather die. And the history was he was actually bullied in school, and that is when he began to turn to games. And I think that issue wasn't resolved. He did not fix the problem of bullying. He found out. So now what he's doing is he's helping a lot of people who has a gaming addiction. So if you go to the website, you can read his story, and he talk about how he built a community to support people who have a gaming addiction. Yeah. So coming to prevention, right? So I think if we before we come to this, perhaps if Jay, I could hold your question for a while. Let's look at this part first. Now, then it will make it, maybe the parents, by looking at this, you will probably get your answer. Now, so what do we look at? What do we look at? Since excessive playing, may not be a problem. So what do we do? So it's important that we understand the vulnerability. The vulnerability, that means the certain use that you have like how many millions is now talking about, like 1.5 billion
1.7. Yeah.
in youth playing games. Of course, not all of them addicted to games, right? So why some people are addicted, some people are not addicted? And the researchers has actually kind of come up with these few categories of vulnerability. So personality trait, every child has a certain personality trait, either nature or nurture. It's still debatable, but there is a personality trait. Like some child has a more avoidant, uh, they are lonely, they have low self-esteem, some of them have poor social skill, and some of them are easily bored. So this kind of personality trait are perhaps more vulnerable to gaming disorder, are more vulnerable to being addicted, because it probably meets a certain needs. We need also to watch out what's the motivation. If the kids just play, or the young people just play for the fun of it, I guess it's fine. But if it has come to the point where game playing is about coping with fear, coping with stress and anxiety, it may not be helpful. The South Korean study about the South Korean children playing games to de-stress, right? And even though it's supposed to be helpful and they de-stress, but it sometimes, a lot of times, not sometimes, lead to problematic play. So if the motivation is to de-stress, you need to have a certain boundary, yeah. And if it's to cope with fear and anxiety, then it's become even more serious. And socialization is good, like I mentioned just now. They have a very strong community. They feel belong. They learn social skill. But when it comes to the point where you only have online friends, you don't want to have real life friends, then that become problematic. So if the motivation is to have just online friends, and you do not want to meet your real friends anymore, you do not have a real life relationship, then it becomes problematic. Now, family factor, again, it is one of the major factor from based on my observation, my experiences with my client. High parent adolescent conflict is one of the factor that drive them to gaming. Um, and the study of the South Korean children, underprivileged children who lack families' care, who lack a secure base, is also vulnerable. Now, family is the secure base for children. Secure base meaning a child feels safe in this family. You just imagine uh, your child growing up in this very safe nest. And of course, they have to go out. They have to go out and battle the world. And when they go out and battle the world, they tend to get hurt. Now when they get hurt, they come back, because the home is the sanctuary, the home is the safe space where they recuperate, where they heal. So family is very important. um, Parent adolescent conflict when it comes to gaming, this is like what I mentioned about trust. When there is no trust, the the adolescent will not open up, and the parent will get worried. And the more you get worried, the more you try to intrude, you try to find out more. And the more you try to find out more, and adolescent, they want their space, and the more they will retreat, and there's the distance will continue to create. So so this bonding, trust, security is actually very important, and without that, that becomes a vulnerability. Now, with this vulnerability, we kind of know how to prevent. Yeah. Um, it's important to understand your child's motivation in gaming, just like, what is it for? Um, Encourage and promote socialization, non-tech activities, outdoor activities, creative activities, family time together is important. Foster hobbies, interests other than video game, so that video game does not just dominate their life. There are other hobbies that a child could go into. I read one of the research where they interviewed some of the players, and one of the player, in fact, I think two of the interviewees, right, are avid readers. So when they don't play video games, they read. And these are the two that they could just stop playing if they want to. Like if there's an exam, they can actually put aside video games and they focus on the exam. So video game is not it's not just video game. Their world is not just video game. There are still other ways of relaxing, other ways of seeking pleasure. Can't beat them, join them. Like Jay, what you mentioned, be computer savvy, be interested in gaming. And I can't stress enough. Family time is so important. Doing things together, going outdoor together, playing board games together, watching movies together, watching a video together, your Netflix program together. Sometimes your child choose, sometimes you choose. I think that's a few things that you could do to prevent the problematic gaming behavior.
All
Hello.
right.
Yeah, I think
Yes, yes.
excuse me. Sorry, I need to plug in. I'm running out of power. Just give me 1 minute. Sorry.
Sure. Okay. And I guess from towards that, when we talk about gaming and addiction, it seems to be a very individual choice that, you
Sorry.
know,
Sorry,
yeah,
just kind of went blank for a while. So where did
yeah,
you
yeah.
where did I lose your
Yeah, I was discussing about in terms of gaming and a choice to use gaming as a way to cope with our own situations, problems in life, right? It seems to be like a choice, right? And video games seems to be like one of the many channels that someone can actually use to find some sort of a comfort or an escape from the brutality of life, right? So it just happens so that that person actually chooses video games as a means to exert their energy on, and it could be anything else. It could be using food. They could be using gambling, and there are other ways on towards that as well.
yeah
If my statement is accurate
yeah
in that way.
yeah but I would like to add that also because of, let's say you're talking about drug addiction, but drug is not so easily available. Alcohol, is also not so easily available. Whereas gaming is very easily available. You know,
Yes.
yeah. So I think the accessibility itself makes a lot of difference, and also you know that drug is bad. Yeah, you know that drug is bad. You know that excessive use of alcohol is bad. You know that gambling is not necessarily bad. There are still a lot of positive aspect of gaming. So it kind of become a little bit vague, yeah. But when you mentioned that making use of something to escape, yes, exactly. You can use anything to escape. Yeah, of course. It's the same. The nature is the same. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so are you still sharing the screen right now, Madam Chief?
I have one slide that I will here. Now this is quite interesting, because some of the research say something. So I have this three question. Yeah. Does extended hours of play indicate that the youth is addicted to gaming?
Okay.
I'm just wondering. The audience, would you like to
Okay, so
add?
question number one is a yes or no question, right? It's a yes or no question.
Uh,
So
I would like to hear from the audience. What do they think? Yeah.
okay, so for those of you who are still watching right now, so question number one: does extended hours of play indicate that the youth is addicted to gaming? Yes or no? Just comment down below. Yes or no for question number one. In other
Yeah.
words, yeah, the longer that the child or student is playing the game, does that mean that he or she is addicted to the
Addicted.
gaming? Yes or no?
And
Okay.
the second question is also is about how effective is parental control and supervision in reduce the risk of gaming addiction. It's like very effective, not effective. And the third one is that can restricting your child to devices prevents the risk of developing gaming addiction.
I think these are very interesting questions that, it's quite straight to
It
the
sounds like
point
very
as well.
serious, right?
Yeah. There are a lot of pre-social norms that immediately would have said, okay, of course it is, right? Of course it's not,
Oops.
something like that. Yeah. But yeah, so for
Yeah.
those of you who are watching, question number one, do you think that the more time that kid is playing the game, that means that he or she is addicted? Yes or no? So just comment down below. Okay. And then secondly, do you think that effective parental control and supervision, it's effective in reducing the risk of gaming addiction? That means if you put a strong arm, that is it more of like the parent restricting the kids that, okay, you cannot play the game using
Yeah, or
different
you can just
means,
play for just half an hour. You can play for 1 hour. That very strict control. Yeah,
right?
and restricting the devices will be like don't give them access. You
Yeah.
pull away the cable. You don't have Wi-Fi. That kind of thing. Yeah.
And can restricting the devices prevent the risk of developing game addiction? I guess, okay, so if I were to ask myself, right, question number one, I would probably say yes. Number two, probably I would say no. And for number three, probably
Hello.
I would say no as well. Yeah.
You say no. Okay. Yeah. So for number one, right? Yes, extended. So the answer should be depends. Yeah, because in the gaming disorder definition, right? The number of hours, or they call it elevated or extended hours of play, is not a criteria of gaming disorder. Yes, extended hours may lead to, or it may be a sign of addiction, but it is probably just one of it. And it is not coupled by lack of control, not coupled by functioning, the impairment in function, then it is not an addiction. So like I mentioned, if you play during your free time, after exam is a holiday and you binge for 6 hours, that is extended hours of play. But it does not mean that the youth is addicted to gaming. So that is about hours. So the point here is we don't just look at the hours. Extended hours does not automatically equal to addiction. I think that is the important message here. Oops. Hello. Are you there, Jay?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. Any feedback from parents on this?
I think there are a few questions over here, but there's no. There's a few questions over here. It depends if you want to take the questions from them.
Okay, maybe later. I'll just explain the second one about how effective is parental control and supervision. Yeah, in reducing the risk.
Sure.
It is very ironical because intuitively, of course, we would want parents to have some supervision and control, but somehow the research actually show that parental control and non-parental control doesn't seem to have any effect on the risk of gaming addiction. That is the research,
Yes.
So I guess if we to interpret it for our practice, basically parental supervision maybe, but in the form of knowing what they're doing, but not controlling them. This is one thing. Second thing is the control also need to be appropriate. If let's say a 5-year-old child, of course, you're not going to let the child glue to the screen for 6 hours.
Yeah. I think
WHO
that is a
has a screen
very
time guide.
Yeah, I think that's a very good keyword, that not to control but to know and to understand.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So again, the example of binging, after the exam. So you know that that is after exam, and he wants to play for 6 hours. Yes, there's no need to control, but you know what it's doing. You know your child is doing that. You may say something like, okay, you want to play 6 hours, but please remember to eat, yeah? Remember to go to the toilet. So you know what they're doing. But to control specifically, you can play only 1 hour a day, 1 hour a day, half an hour a day is not effective. In fact, the studies show that by doing that, it creates the parent-child conflict. Now, remember, one of the vulnerability is the parent-adolescent conflict in the family. Similarly, number 3, restricting to devices, that what was a clear no, because devices is part of our life now. It create a parent-adolescent conflict. There's one. I have experience of a teenager. The parent wouldn't allow him to play any computer games. And you know what happened was he actually suffered socially, because when he went to school, he know nothing about gaming and he couldn't fit in. Yeah, imagine all the kids are talking about games and he knew nothing because he has no access to gaming. Yeah, so that that has affected him socializing. Yeah, so restricting itself actually doesn't help. In fact, it has certain negative effects on the child.
Right,
Yeah.
that is very true as well. I guess there was a discussion earlier in some of our earlier session was that some of the parents would actually restrict students or their child from
Hello.
utilizing. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
Yes. Yeah, there was a discussion of a parent of actually restricting the child of utilizing handphones in watching video at a younger age, right? So does this apply to a certain age group? Is there sort of like a definition that below 10 years old, or is it spreading on across towards entire age groups?
The guidelines I'm not familiar, because WHO actually has come out with a guideline on screen time, but I'm not sure about handphone. They have a screen time, but I think they are talking more about younger children.
Right.
So when you're like 8, 10 years old, yeah. But again, I think it really depends on family value. Some children, they have handphone at a very young age. Some parents won't allow. I think this one, I don't think necessarily you need to have like a guide, only by 10 years old you can have a handphone. It is again about family. So if the family rules is as such, and the family child and the parent child relationship is good, there is a conversation going on, you can show some respect to the child and the child show respect to you and they follow certain rules. I think that is fine. Yeah. The tricky part come in is actually adolescent, because when you reach adolescent age, the child need to fit into the community. Yeah, they need to be up to date. They need to be trendy. So for parents, you need to know when to let go. Yeah, when to allow space within a boundary. So adolescent time, you need to give a boundary. It's the same as like curfew. Like some parents, they curfew by 10. Some parents, they allow their children to go out to midnight. There are other things like clubbing. For example, clubbing, whether you allow your children to go clubbing or not when they reach 18. Yeah. So it is the same thing. It is within your family value, parent-child conversation. Yeah. The questions, do you want to bring up the questions?
Yes. Okay, so there's a couple of questions from Aziz over here. So let me see. Okay, so if we put a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put as clinical psychologist gamification as your pastime for youngsters? So if we put a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put as a clinical psychologist gamification as pastime for your youngsters? So I'm not sure if I answered the questions, but probably how long would you put as as a suitable or recommended time? I think that you were mentioning from WHO. Is there a guideline that states that how long is a healthy amount of time?
Gamification as a pastime. What does that mean by gamification as a pastime? That means it is a choice, whether or duration. I think duration is difficult to tell.
Mhm.
Yeah, if you are asking the question of whether gaming is a suitable pastime for youngsters, yes, I would say so. Yes, I would say 10. I would say 10. You know, it is part of their life now. It is part of the world.
Mhm.
It is. But again, you know, being a pastime, being a hobby is different from compulsive behavior. We have to take notes, you know, of the vulnerability and take note that it does not become a compulsive behavior. And of course, genre, you know, genre is important, the type of game. If you know that the game is
Yeah,
bad
yeah.
for sexual content, of course you wouldn't want to do it. It's just like you said, books, you know, or movies, you know. Yeah.
Right, right, right. Yeah, like also like I would just like to add on as well, Madam Chang, is that for games, right? A lot of times, right, when we ask ourselves, okay, why does why do we choose a certain game to play, or why does a certain adult or adolescents choose a certain game to play? Most of the time, it is because it is popular, and that mostly is that their friends are playing, everyone is playing on social media, and then
Yeah.
they want to experience that same experience as well, right?
Mm,
And that is why they choose a certain game by itself. So
mm,
although a certain game might be very fun to play, but because it is not popular and you can't keep up with the conversation with your peers, so more than likely it's not about whether the game is nice to play or not. It's more likely of what's popular out there. Similar to music as well. So what's popular over there, they tend to want to gravitate towards experiencing the same experience. So to have a same form of conversation with their peers as well.
okay. Yeah, I guess this is one of a strong factor for this is a strong factor for adolescents here. But I do come across some adolescents
Right.
who have very specific interests, like those who really love the single player RPG because they love the story. Yeah, and you know
Yeah.
the concept, you know, like those of those people who love Greek mythology, who love to read about culture, you
Right.
know, they will probably choose that kind of genre. Yeah, yeah. But I
Right.
think this,
Right.
like you said, lah, the community, you know, community part of it to fit in, that's probably one of the driving factor. Should I
From
proceed with the
towards
next?
here from Aziz as yeah, okay. So maybe one question over here. So what if we don't restrict the device, but we control the time when they are able to use the device for game? So for example, if we were to restrict weekend activities, yeah. Any comment on that?
Yeah, so that
I think
belongs
it's a
to
very
the
good question.
parental control. That belong to the parental control. Yeah. Definitely parental like I said, the answer to that question, whether how effective is parental control, I think intuitively the important thing is to be aware, uh, the control, like what you mentioned, that control the time when they are able to use. Perhaps we tweak the word a little bit lah, not control lah. You know, control is, especially we are talking about teenagers. When teenagers are beginning to form their own identity, they form their opinion. When you try to control them, you know, first thing, when you control a teenager, you are stifling their growth, yeah, because you're not allowing them to learn self-control, yeah. But what I would say is a negotiation, agreed to come up with certain rules, you know. In a family, there is always house rules, you know. Simple thing like dinner time, no handphone, for example. Yeah. um an hour before dinner time, you don't play games. Yeah. You play games only after you complete your homework, for example. Of course, like weekend. Yeah. And the important thing is, if this is the rule, and you agree that every weekend you are allowed to, you can play games for say 3 hours, 4 hours, you need to respect that. You need to respect that. And you don't say that, oh, this weekend I need to go visit grandma, I need to stop gaming and then let's go to visit grandma. Again, adolescents want to have that sense that their rights are being respected, and that's when they will also respect the parents. Yeah, I hope this answer your question.
Yeah, and I guess if I may have a follow-up question on that, right? I guess earlier we were having a conversation with one of the teachers that has a very interesting way on restrictive timing on using iPad, right? So he was giving an example that all of the students in their school would have an agreement between them. It's sort of like a covenant, right, between the adult and the child that, okay, tell me when do you think is the appropriate time to use the iPad? And then the kid will say, okay, XXX time. And then he'll write it down in a paper. And what we'll
Excellent.
do is that, okay, let's agree on this and then let's sign on this. And then what are the consequences if you don't follow? So would you
Yeah,
say that the agreement and the process of getting towards that agreement is more important than the actual
yeah,
timing by itself? Mm-hmm.
yeah. So especially dealing with adolescent, I think this is very important because uh, other than respect their space and autonomy, you are also giving them the opportunity to learn what is appropriate. So if they come up with a solution that you think it is not appropriate, you let them know that this is not suitable. Why not you do this? Okay. So this is where you help the adolescent to grow. You groom them to make their own decision. You groom them to have that self control as they continue to grow. Yeah. So that's excellent. That the teacher
Right.
what the teacher did.
Okay, right. Yeah, I guess let's proceed on ahead with your
Okay. You,
slide.
you can still see the screen, because I'm
Yes.
not quite sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we are
So
at slide 22.
let's just take a look at this story. Yeah. Yeah. So this child, he played Tetris at 3 to 4 years old, and then he moved to console game. And at 7 years old, he actually started to play Dota. Sounds quite scary, actually. At such a young age. Yeah. And this another story is the person spent 50 hours per week and practice with friends for 8 hours a day while eating lunch, which is takeout, will discuss game strategy and review the games played. And he play on his own nearly every waking minute. So it kind of sound like addiction, right? Started playing at such a young age
Yeah.
and,
Mm-hmm.
and playing like every waking minutes. Yeah. But this is the reality of a professional gamer. So the first story is the story of Meet One. Meet One is our Malaysian player, a Dota 2 talent. He is now country ranking is number 2. Country ranking 1 is ex Nova, and world ranking is number 43. So he's a professional player now, um, earning like millions. His earning is million, and he's very young. He's in early 20s, I think. Now the
Right.
second story is actually the players of Team Liquid. They are professional LOL team. Yeah, they just play and play and play and play and play. Yeah. So this is the life of professional player. So with this esports coming in, I think Encik Aziz, I think, brought up the question. It sounds now it blur the line, it blur the line. And for parents, you just imagine your child come up to you and say that I want to quit school, I want to be a pro gamer. It is such a dilemma, what would you say to your child? It is really difficult, and let's look at esports. This is already not the updated data. The global market revenue is 121 billion, contributed by 2.3 billion gamers. Now it's about 2.7. 2.4 million Malaysians are esport enthusiasts. The game price is 94 million, the prize money. That is in 2016. It could be much higher now. All this tournament, right? It is actually sponsored by big company like Red Bull is one of the biggest sponsor. Coca-Cola is another sponsor. this tournament was in 2018. I think it was in Genting, and ex-Nova. Now he's ranked number one in Malaysia. He was one of the team. These are mostly Chinese. Yeah, this is a Chinese team. And see what is your prize money? 60 million.
60 million. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. So this is esports, And in SEA Games, of course, the SEA Games didn't take place because of COVID-19, but it has been recognized as a medal sport. And in Olympic too, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it has also been recognized. In Malaysia, we have the Esports Academy. This is Astro. You have an esports channel. So it blurred the line, with esports coming in. There's already this question, DSM-5. DSM-5 is the American Psychiatric Association's manual on psychiatric disorder. It has not been implemented, but it is under research. So the question is, how do you tell whether it's competitive play or whether it is addiction? Yeah. So I think Aziz brought up this question, that there is this worry. Like I said, our Ministry of Youth and Sports has come out with a 5-year strategy on how to build esports. And I think what was the question already, Injured Aziz? One, do you have the question?
Let me bring up the question again. Yeah, if you can see the question over here, featuring the 2022. So would that be a choice for the nation?
Yeah, I think your question is that whether a nation should encourage esports or not. Yeah, I don't think this is a question anymore, because the reality is that esport is already very, very big. Okay, it has already a very high status. Like Red Bull. Red Bull used to sponsor F1, I think. Yeah, it sponsor F1. These are all major corporate, that they has been sponsored major tournament. So it's no longer a question whether this is a good choice or not, because it is already a reality, the esport tournament. And even like, if you to understand the popularity of esports, in the corporate world, they have corporate esport tournament. Yeah. In the old days, when I was in the corporate, right, we have sports club. And our sports club is the boys play football, the girls play netball. After work, we go and cheer the boys, or the boys come and cheer us for netball. But now it's esport tournament among the corporates. So it is already there. So I had a read of the 5-year strategy of the Malaysian Kementerian Belia and Sukan. There was a section where they address the mental health and the physical health of the players. I think that is very, very important. We have to make sure that these players are not being exploited, because esports players, the gamers, are usually very young. They started at perhaps about 16, 17, and I watched a documentary. By the time they are 26, they are like a little bit too old and a bit too tired to continue. And the younger one are more aggressive and faster. So these people are very, very young. You have to make sure that they are not being exploited. You have to make sure that what's going to happen after they retire at 26 years old. It is 26 years old to most of us are just probably the beginning of the career. But to these esports gamers, that is the end of their career. Yeah. But similarly, in the sports, in the real sports arena, like you look at gymnasts, I think at 26 years old, they are old, they need to stop. So this is not new. So how to take care of their career and their future after they retire? There must be a career path, a pathway plan for them. And while they're playing with that kind of insane schedules, how do you make sure that they remain healthy, that they still do the physical exercise, And the paper by Syed Sadiq, by the ministry, actually highlight that, and they also make parallel to the so-called sports, the real sports, like if you play tennis, you get tennis elbow.
Right.
Injury among athletes is very common. F1 motor race, injury and all these things. So how do you take care of this aspect of the injuries part, whether it's physical or mental? So this is the part that I think, if it's my opinion that if a nation wants to want to encourage sports, just like any sports, the nation would need to take care of our athletes in this aspect.
Right. Yeah. Would you be able to share with us some of the natural injuries or so-called sport hazard that may incur for an
For
e-sport
e-sports, is it? Um,
player? You
I
will.
have not read into it, but I could imagine if you stay sedentary, and like just now, what, 50 hours,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then you take out, you eat in front of your screen. uh I don't think you need to imagine. You don't need a medical profession to tell you and how you will affect your health.
Right. Right.
But if you think about it, right, workaholics, yeah. So to all the adults, yeah, now when you work from home during the COVID-19, this is happening to a lot of people because you wake up in the morning, you need to turn on your computer, you eat your breakfast in front of the computer. There's so much to do, and the computer is always there. You don't go to the office, you don't go out for lunch with your colleague. You just keep working and working, and your boss will put the same demand on you. Yeah, so it is the same thing. That there will be a lot of other health issues. There will be digestion issues. There will be your blood pressure and your stress and everything. You will come. Yeah.
Right. Right. Okay. So right now for students, and if we were to look at from the context of gaming addiction, right? So it's no longer, we can't actually use addiction as a form of proper categorizing of this video games, because like the context that you were showing us, that is that a professional gamer, spending 50 hours a week, it's almost like a dedication to the craft, right? They have to dedicate those amount of hours to get good at that certain sport. So it's more of like, uh, it, to be the best gamer, you have to be able to put in that amount of time and sacrifice your time and your energy for you to get better at a certain sport. So I guess it's sort of like a same level playing field in any career and in any sports
In
as
any
well.
sports, I suppose so. Yeah. In any sports. Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Right.
So I guess, if there's no more question, I would kind of show you the last slide.
Okay.
Um, Actually, the last slide is there was only.
Okay. So I'm looking at the last slide over here.
So after all that we have talked about, I think to me, this is the most important. If if the family relationship is good, there is secure and loving parent-child relationship. This is the best prevention to addiction. It still come back to family at the end of the day. Whatever prevention that you want to talk about. If you have a good parent-child relationship, you would be able to have the rules. You will be able to have a good negotiation with your adolescents on how much game time. You'll be able to spend family time. They will have other kinds of hobbies. So gaming will not be their world. So this is very important. So I would like to just summarize with just this message.
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, just now you kind of blank out a little bit. Yes.
Okay, yeah. So I think there's one more slide at the final one after this,
Oh, that
right?
one is just some information on mental health accessibility. Yeah. Before I move to that, is there any questions? Um, Aziz has been
Yeah,
asking a lot of
I
questions.
guess
Thank you very much. Very good questions. I hope you got some answers. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, right. And I guess form towards that, when we look at gaming as a whole, it's more on towards the assumption. If I were to look at it, right, there's as a parent or as an educator, you might think that okay, there might not be a career path on gaming, on to become one of the world champion in esports. So probably the thought process is almost similar towards, hey, it's very hard for you to become a pro footballer, to become like one of
It's
the top in the world. So there's no point in focusing your time and energy to practice football as such as well. So it could be like the same thought
it's the same,
process on,
it's the
yeah,
same topic. Like some of the children say, I want to be an actor, I want to be a singer.
right, right. So it seems that
It's just scared
uh,
how you scared how the parents they want to be an actor or a singer. Yeah.
right,
It's
right.
it's yeah. Mm.
Right. So, Madam Chang, so since you've been working with some of your clients and some case studies as well, right? So, what would be your normal recommendation or your normal conversation be like when a parent were to present you with their children, which might be in the tendency of playing 10 hours or 12 hours a day on game, on playing video games, what would be your normal response or recommendation to the parent or the child by itself?
Um, my approach, because
Yes.
I do family therapy.
Mhm.
So when I do family therapy, uh, normally I would not go straight into the behavior. I want to move away from the behavior. Yeah, because I think from what I have experienced and what I have even Cam Adair, talk about it. It is not about the behavior. Cam Adair says something very, very how to say, very profound. He said that all this debate, is about the behavior, whether it's addictive or it's not addictive, right? But he said that is not the point. You need to look at the underlying factors. You need to be compassionate to those people. So bring the focus, kind of not so focused on the behavior, but to understand the relationship. So this is usually my approach. I will work on the relationship, because the moment the relationship is mended, the bonding is formed, this behavior will somehow naturally correct itself. Yeah, and of course I will do psychoeducation, things that I talk about just now, different genre of games, perhaps I will also talk to the parents and help them to understand uh what gaming is all about, to kind of, so that the world meets, the world of the adolescents and the world of the parents, they meet, so that they understand each other. This is usually my approach. Relationship. Yeah.
I see. Right. And usually on that case, what would you normally see in terms of the improvement of after having to pay on the understanding between parents and child? Does the child actually gravitate away from gaming by itself? Does that usually happen from there?
um so far, like I said, in my early years, was not successful until that young man. For that young man, in fact, he stopped on his he reduced it on his own. I remember a session where he sat down and discussed with his father on how his father could actually help him to control his game.
Right.
So he said that something like slow internet speed. He suggested, that let's have
Right.
slow internet speed, because slow internet speed will hamper the game. It's going to frustrate you, and then you're going to stop playing.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So even though I do not know what happened after that, in their relationship, but that particular session where he could tell his father that, why not you do this, to me is very hopeful. When parent child can have a conversation. Yeah.
Right, right. And
But
and
I mean,
uh, f-
my other cases are not purely addiction. This excessive problematic pill was just part of it. So it was never focused. There were other issues. Usually, there's a lot more other issues like anxiety, depression. Uh,
right, right.
so it is all comorbid, lah. So it's not purely see me because of computer addiction. Yeah.
Right, right. And would you say that I heard a very interesting and highly debatable statement is that it states that we as human beings, right, we are always addicted to something, right? So yeah, it means that in a way, for example, if we are addicted to game, that means we are addicted to game. But if you're not addicted to game, you're still addicted to something else. It's just that what are you really looking to be addicted on and to spend most of your time doing that particular thing. Say, for example, if that person is good in football or soccer, that means he's addicted in playing soccer, right? And if that person is a workaholic, right, or he's very performing very good in his grades or their examination, it means that they are naturally addicted to study and learning, right?
Okay, we have to be very careful with the word addiction. Yeah,
Right,
I think
right.
just like the WHO, that one is ICD. Yeah,
Mhm.
International Classification of Disease definition. Right, addiction involves impairment of function. So if a person who love football and play well, there was no impairment. He's healthy. So
Right.
it is not an addiction.
I
It could
see.
be just a love, a passion for it.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
So all of
right,
us can have some passion. In fact, it is good because passion gives us value, gives us purpose. But
right,
addiction is different. When a person is in addiction, like Cam Adair, he was in depression and he was suicidal. So
right.
addiction is pathological, just
Mm,
impairment of function. Yeah.
right, right. Okay. Yeah, understood from there. Yeah. So, say for example, if we were to use the word dedication of time, would that be a better word?
Dedication, passionate,
Mm,
Yeah.
right.
Passionate. I would say it's passionate.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Okay. Wow. I think I sort of like get another dimension onto how we actually look at into the topic of addiction and how we actually spend our time on towards what we actually do as a whole. I guess we as adults sometimes we question ourselves as well. Hey, is what I'm doing right now beneficial to me myself? Sometimes as an adult, we face dilemma in the choice as well, in terms of what do we take upon for the next day. Are we spending or are we wasting our time in doing a certain things as well, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess probably let's take one last question over here. I guess I did actually ask this question earlier as well. It's a very straightforward question. Parents child gaming activity, does that work?
I should think so.
Yeah.
Yes, it depends. Like I have a friend. She has two young children, like primary school children. Yeah. So during this COVID time, she actually play games with the kids,
All
with
right.
them. Yeah. Yeah, they are young, so they play usually games that are suitable for children.
Mhm.
And sometimes she will ask, the daughter is a bit older. I think daughter is about 12. So she will ask the daughter to be the takache lah, will search for it lah, search and then will teach the mother how to play because somehow, very much slower. Teach the mother and then teach the brother and they all play together. Yeah, it does. Bonding.
Right.
Yeah.
Hmm. Okay.
Mm.
Yeah. So there you go. So play more games. Of course, selective games, with your students and your child to for better relationship. Yeah.
Mm.
Because end of the day, it's almost like being on a journey together. It's just that it's visual on the screen. it's no difference than, bringing them to climb the mountain together or to travel together. It's an experience in by itself as well.
Another activity where you share experience with your child.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Okay, right. And I guess on towards that, as we come to the close, wow, thank you so much everyone for still tuning in until this late hour on Saturday.
I have my the last slide. It's just some information. It may not be related to addiction, but as a clinical psychologist, I always try to do this basically to disseminate information on where to seek help. If there is a need. It's a bit. Anyway, these are different organization. I'm from Malaysia's Association for Mindfulness Practice and Research. Our organization, you can find us with this in the website. We provide or we conduct mindfulness program for the community and also for the corporates. You can read about us a bit more on this website. Now going up here now, GEM Helpline is actually phone helper, something similar to Befrienders. So if any one of you thinks that you need some emotional support, you need to talk to someone, these phone lines are manned by so-called para counselors. They are not professional. They are not qualified counselors or psychologists, but they are well trained by professionals. So you can go to the Facebook and you can find the number. Soul's Health is a NGO that provide counseling and therapy at a discounted price, at a subsidized price, and they also do a lot of community work with the marginalized society. Malaysian Society of Clinical Psychology is a society that I belong. It is a society that governs the clinical psychologists in Malaysia. So in the website, you can find a registry, that means a list of clinical psychologists in Malaysia. So these are good resources for people to seek help, to find out more about where you can seek help. It is, like I said, it is not just related to addiction. It is just about anything relating to mental health. So these are
Right.
just a few that I put it up because these are the few that I'm involved in. Like I helped out in the training of the GEM Helpline. And I also do pro bono work at Soul's Health. There's a lot more. There's a lot more in Malaysia.
Right. And I guess just a little bit discussion on towards the Malaysian Association for Mindfulness Practice and Research. And I guess you're part of the member as well in it. Would you be able to share some of the activities that your team actually does on a frequent basis for the
Frequent, because we are all practitioners, we have our job, so it's a bit difficult to frequent activities. 2 years ago, we actually have a public seminar where we introduce mindfulness, and then individually we conduct a mindfulness program for any like organization who come to us. Like one of them, Lau Mien conduct quite a bit of mindfulness program for corporates because she has quite a good corporate background. And one of them, Dr. Pang, he is a he's a psychiatrist, so he would also conduct mindfulness program for anyone who come and request for them. I personally have conducted mindfulness program for some special needs teacher to help them manage their stress. And one of the project that we are going into is called Mindful School. Mindful School meaning that we want to introduce mindfulness practice, not just as a practice to a school, but as a culture in a school. So the program will involve training the teachers. That means let the teachers go through the mindfulness program to create the self-awareness in them, to be able to, how do I put that? To be able to connect with the children better. So basically, you're aware of yourself, then you become aware of the children, right? So not to be reactive, to be aware of your own judgmental mind. Sometimes, sometimes we are judgmental. We stereotype children. Be aware of your own emotion. Be aware of your own stress. Because when we are stressed, sometimes we are not clear in our head. So this is mindful. We call it mindful cikgu program. We are
Right.
still at the very beginning stage. We are working with certain school, but this COVID-19 is like everything stopped lah. In Malay we call it tergendala, everything tergendala. So we
Right.
have to pick it up again. Yeah. So this is one of our main project now that we are working on, the mindful school project. Yeah, but individually, and one of them is doing quite a lot of mindful parenting program. Yeah.
Okay. And where can they actually get in touch if, say, teachers who are watching, if they want to, participate and join in one of your sessions, how do they, get updated with the latest program?
Um, if let's say it is a request, because at the moment I don't think we're going to have any public events, because of the COVID, and we are also quite caught up with our own work. You go to the website, there is an email. There is an email. You can actually email. I think it's info. It's the general email, info at mindfulnessmalaysia.com, and you can actually put it into the request, or you can go into the individual trainer. Like the individual trainer have their email address. So if say you are interested in mindful parenting, you go to the trainer. Her name is Mei Liu. You go to it. You can email to this particular person. I think Jay, Pei, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Pei
Pei
came
is
in
one.
on the
Pei Kashan,
EduChat.
he's one of the
Yes.
trainer. Yeah, yeah, he is one of the trainer also. So in the website, so you can actually write directly to email to the person. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and possibly, hopefully, we are able to, work with each other as well in future times. Probably we can have a very short half a day session for teachers. Who know?
If you're in,
Maybe let's have a talk on that. Since
yeah, and if you're interested,
mindfulness.
always ask Jay how to contact me. Yeah.
Yeah, and because I truly think that the understanding of mental well-being, it's so crucial right now, especially at this time where we're having the second and the third wave, and schools are still not open.
I
Teachers are
understand.
still, yes,
Already
so
so stressful for the teachers. Yeah. Mm.
right. So yeah, so I just have a thought as well. If we were to have a collaboration and to run probably a trial class with teachers in the Education Summit platform right now. So far, there's about 5,000 teachers right now from across
Wow.
30 countries.
Yeah.
Let's see how we can work together in spreading your message to more teachers out there, and to help more schools and students as a process, especially during this time as well. Yeah,
Awesome. Yes.
yeah. Just question: will there be any game, video game therapy to promote? Hey, teachers, you should play more video games with your kids.
No, like I said, I'm not a gamer, so when it comes to this thing, the resources part, I'm not that good. Yeah.
Right.
And the clinical psychologist is a little bit pathological, because we look at pathological issues. Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess towards that, I think it's been 2.5 hours that we are having this chat. So yeah, and I guess for final thoughts from Madam Chiang with regards to our entire discussion for today, final
Mm.
conclusions on that. Mhm.
I think a few key points. Yeah, I said, like I mentioned to you just now, uh, excessive long hours of play doesn't equals to addiction. Okay, passion doesn't equals to addiction. Hobbies doesn't equals to addiction. So I think this need to be very clear so that parents don't panic. Yeah, so it is not so scary. This is the first thing, and the line, between just very passionate play, right, and addiction, right, uh, is the impairment of function, right? And to the gamer themselves, the important thing is the self-control. So if a gamer can have the self-control, he can play like hours. but he knows that if he need to stop, he stop. I think that is the most important element. So if anything you need to inculcate in a child, this self-control is important, right? And how to inculcate this, I would still want to go back to parent-child conversation. A good conversation, good bonding. So it still go back to relationship. It's very important. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Final thoughts on that. Strengthen the communication and relationship between your students and your child with you, and a lot of things would play on well by itself.
That's
Yes.
right. Mm.
I guess, I guess with that, thank you so much, Madam Chiang, for being with us for today's session, spending your Saturday evening together with us. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much
And
for this opportunity.
yeah, and we'll be hope to see you again in future, probably in future sessions among to come as well. Thank you so much again.
Yep, you're welcome. Good night, everyone.
All right, good night to you. Take care.
Yeah, take care.
All right, so there was Madam Chiang speaking about gaming addiction. Does it exist? So let us know your thoughts as well. How do you feel about the discussion on today? And does your kid or your students have any form of gaming issues where they spend hours and hours on a day playing computer games and not doing what they're supposed to do, right? So let us know your thoughts as well. And I guess towards that, it has been a very, very interesting discussion. Me, myself, I'm very passionate about this topic because it's a very, very prevalent issue amongst youngsters and adolescents nowadays, playing games and probably neglecting some of the more important things in life. But I guess echoing what Madam Chiang has been discussing about, it's all about the communication between you yourself and your children. So video games would probably be one of the method or one of the channels that they might choose to escape from a deeper underlying issue or an underlying problem as well. So some food for thoughts on that, and let's hope that we are able to view this topic or this issue on a more understanding, with more understanding and more compassion towards the topic by itself as well. All right. So I guess towards that, Jay Wong here, signing off from this EduChat series for this week. And of course, for tomorrow, we will actually be having a very, very interesting session, which is Edu Galaxy. So for those of you teachers and parents who are actually, having any students and kids who are 10 to 17 or 17 years old, please do check out on the link in the group, as well as Malaysia Education Summit on the activities ahead. It's all about space education, where we actually invited actual people that works with NASA as well as the Canadian Space Academy to come on board and share with kids and children all across the world. So far right now, there has been already about 7 countries that is already participating. So children and students and teachers from across the world will be joining in together to learn about STEM education, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. So it will be a very, very exciting program for tomorrow. And of course, it's not only going to be tomorrow, it's going to be a 3 months program, right? So tomorrow is the launch date where we kickstart the first session by our 2 speakers. So if you have any of your schools or students stuck at home with nothing to do during COVID, please do check out on the Education Galaxy or Edu Galaxy as a whole, right? So I guess with that, thank you so much everyone for tuning in on today's EduChat series, and we'll look forward to see you all next week and also tomorrow if you are joining in the Edu Galaxy. And I wish you a very good evening, weekend, and I'll see you next week. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.